Imagine you're a business owner relying on a dozen different software programs, each one disconnected, more expensive, and more complicated than the last. It can be incredibly stressful, right? Now, picture Odoo. Odoo brings all the tools your business needs into one simple platform. CRM, accounting, inventory, manufacturing, marketing, HR, and more. All seamlessly connected. Everything works together, giving you the peace of mind that your business is running smoothly from every angle. Odoo's open source applications are user-friendly and designed to scale with your business, saving you time and money. Say goodbye to juggling multiple platforms and hello to efficient, integrated management. Stop wasting resources on complicated systems and make the switch to Odoo today. Visit odoo.com, ODOO.com, and discover how Odoo can simplify and streamline your business operations. Odoo, modern management made simple.
The Agile brand. Hey there, it's your pal, Bonnie Habian, and welcome to the Worth Knowing podcast. If you like a real-life story that features grit, grace, and a whole lot of gumption, then you're in the right place. Get ready to hear from some courageous women who talk about how pivotal, teachable, aha moments have reshaped their confidence and delivered opportunities they never imagined. It didn't happen by chance, of course. They figured out new, sometimes uncomfortable ways to put themselves out there in a way that shouts, they get it. You'll hear intimate stories with actionable takeaways and some very secret sauce. Because everyone has an important story worth knowing. And you know what? The world needs it, and you deserve it. Today, we're talking with some very savvy young women. And I say savvy because they have been in the workforce for some time, but they're also professional, expert sort of real estate finance investors and educators. And so they are a little bit outside of the realm, right? We hear for so many years that, the part of a pie, of a whole finance pie, really is including that real estate side. But women, for some reason, are very afraid of that. So I have two guests today. I have Brooke Ceballos Pinero. Did I say that right? Close?
Ceballos Pinero. Good luck, girl. You're on it.
Yeah. She knows. She knows. I already told her. I've been taking 10 years of Spanish, but it's still a little hard for me. And Shirley Baez, which is much easier to say. And both of these women are really spectacular. They have very interesting backgrounds. But you know what? I wanted them here to talk to all of my pals out there who may not really understand something that they're missing. And it's something very, very important. So the goal of this show today is to help change your mindset a little bit and get you a little bit more comfortable for empowering yourself for your future with real estate. So let me go, ladies. I want you just to give a little bit about yourselves and how you kind of got here, because, it's an interesting journey that both of you have found yourselves on, but now you're kind of on this journey together. So Shirley, why don't you start first? You and I kind of met through a similar sort of organization, and we just hit it off, and I said, you need to be on the show.
Thank you. No, thank you, Bonnie, so much for having us here. It's truly a pleasure. And for sure, it's a passion of ours to educate other women on, options that they have to build their wealth. So hello, everybody. My name is Shirley Baez. I am a 20-year Army retired veteran.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am. And, throughout my military career, I always been interested in growing my wealth. I've always been interested in the compound interest effect, right? And so when I started my journey, I started investing traditionally.
What does that mean? Traditionally, people are thinking stocks, bonds,
Yes,
municipal
stocks,
bonds.
bonds, mutual funds, putting my money in a savings account, just tradition, how what they taught us, right? In school and all of that. And so when I decided to retire, I knew that I wanted something more in my life. And I knew that I didn't want to work until I was 70 years old. And I knew that I had to change my mindset to think of ways on how to grow my wealth and all. And so throughout my military career, I was able to save a good amount of nest egg. And that definitely helped me when I transitioned. I started attending these real estate summits. First and foremost, from Grant Cardone, which I always say
Yes.
that's kind of like the rite of passage for a lot of people. That's kind of like your starting point, and then you kind of elevate and go and know other people. And so it really interests me how money works and how investing in assets that you can see and touch can generate wealth in the long run.
Okay. All right. Let me pivot real quickly because I want to hear a little bit from Brooke, and then I'm going to bring you both kind of together and really just start punching some holes, and so that we can start to feel comfortable and get our audience comfortable with how you got to where you are, which is a pretty cool place. Go
Sure.
ahead, Brooke.
All right. What's happening, everybody? My name is Brooke Ceballos Pinheiro. My background is corporate, honestly, sales, marketing, negotiations in the corporate world. And it got me in this field because I grew up, I'm the oldest of 6 kids, of a single mom for a lot of my life we relied on government, and everybody else, to take care of us. And I think for me, a lot of it, as I grew up into an adult, right? And I had my own daughters, I just saw that, I'm tired of only seeing men in this space the way I was in corporate. And I think a lot of it came from just being fed up, and women are taught to manage the checkbook and be sugar and spice and everything nice, and not to educate ourselves financially and to be ambitious but not too ambitious. And I think once I got to Grant Cardone, which is where I met Shirley, and I didn't see very many women, I didn't see very many minorities, it was all men. It really started to propel me, like, you know what, I am now going to sign up for a mastermind, which I did with Grant. And now I have 676 units in Florida
Crazy.
and 481 units in Texas and a triple net. And so we have about 80 million of assets under management. But a lot of it, you asked, why did you get started? And if I'm being honest, it was from being fed up.
Well, that's interesting. You both are coming from a little bit of a different perspective. You were raised by a single mom, right? So you saw things differently. And, Shirley, it sounds like you had sort of a, kind of a more of a traditional life, but at some point, something went off in your head to say, hey, you know what? I really don't want to work till I'm 70. I've got this kind of good foundation. Let me figure out how to build on that. So you both came from different kind of parts of thinking. But I think the thing that I have a question about is someone in your past, there had to be a mentor, they had to be someone that gave you that courage to think a little out of the box. Because Brooke, you seem like almost a little angry, which is it's completely fine. Whatever gets us to where we need to be. But there was somebody in there or something that gave you a little more confidence than you realize. And I'm wondering if you both know who that is, or who kind of played some role in your lives that gave you that confidence to think differently.
I can go first. Honestly, me and Brooke have a little bit more in common than what people think. I came from also a single mom
You did.
who struggled a lot to maintain money. So money came in, money went out. And I saw myself living in lack a lot. And that's one of the reasons why the military for me was the best way out of my situation. Being in the military and being a soldier, having great leaders taught me the importance of saving and investing, even though I was doing it traditionally.
Discipline too, you think? I'm That's just really interesting what you're saying. Something happened where you started to realize, you know what? If I put my mind to something, I can figure it out.
You know what really triggered me? That first $300 check that I got in the military, because it was my first check that I ever got paid. I was like, "Oh my God." And kid you not, I took at least $20 and I put it in a savings account. It was
That's a
just
high
something.
though, right? That's a little bit of a high. When you got that first check,
Yes.
that
Yes, because
yeah.
I never went through that. Like, I never experienced that until that time.
Well, that's amazing. Brooke, I want to hear a little bit more about your journey because I got it couldn't have been very easy, right? You saw a lot going on and something fueled you. And then I want to understand where your brothers and sisters are because, it's interesting if you're in the middle child or you that first child, where is all that going?
So I'm the oldest of 6 kids.
You're the oldest. Okay.
And our family is military, so I got bumped around a lot, and there's a lot of instability. And we have 4 daughters of colors, and we're a blended family. Okay, and so that's really once I became a mom, I was more inspired to do this, and I knew I wanted to be in real estate because during COVID, working for the corporate world, a lot of the craziness came out, and I felt like I had golden handcuffs, and I was missing out on a.
Oh my gosh. No, you know what? That is the time when people said, "I am no longer gonna be beholden
Right.
to any one thing that controls my destiny." So that's a very good thing that came out of that for you and your daughters,
Yes.
to be quite honest. Like, some different things that you experienced, you are now taking to them, but go ahead, keep that's fascinating.
Yeah, and so growing up with an unstable childhood and then being the only woman in the space in corporate, the only woman in sales team, and as I continued to move up the corporate ladder, I was tired of kind of giving, Brooke, take the notes or do this, do that. I'm like, this little thing started. Hey, we're having a birthday party. Why don't you go pick up the cake? Who the hell do you think you are? And I always joke around that I was a Latino man in previous life because I'm a woman, but I have a man mentality sometimes. So I went to these
Yeah,
real estate events. I went to over 19, 20 events in my first year. I was like, where the hell is all the women? And then I was thinking of my daughters, and I brought my oldest, who'll be 17 tomorrow, and put
okay,
her, yeah, and put her into space because I was learning from millionaires and billionaires and
oh
people
gosh.
30 years ahead of me saying, well, Brooke, you're a high income earner. Why aren't you putting it as a passive investor? And you could be wiping out taxes, Brooke. You could be monthly or getting quarterly disbursements. I'm like, what is this you say? What? Passive income? Talk
Right,
to
right. Everyone likes that. What do we for wait, don't you think passive income, you're laying and you're drinking on, like, a nice mojito or something by a pool? That's what we envision, the passive income, right? We have our nails painted. I don't think that's
but it
really, but
tells
it
you.
sounds good.
I know, and it's on going around and it's dominantly men, right? And
Yeah.
so and I paid for the paid mentorship with Grant Cardone. And for me, coming from sales and marketing, to me, it was just another product I had to learn. And when I was listening to people talk and they're acquiring assets, I'm like, I got this. I can do this. They're free. My daughters, I want them to be able to do work they enjoy, not work that they have to do.
Right.
And my brothers and sisters are in different, like, and we're also a blended family. So, like, I have a sister who is a director of marketing for a company out of Ohio. And then I have a couple brothers who are in construction. And then my other sister runs a bank.
Okay.
And yeah. And so we're all sprawled across the board.
What I hear from both of you is you both want more secure futures for yourself and your loved ones. And that's the number one drive that I think, although, I'm in more of the corporate world, but do some things on the side, I'm right there with you, Brooke, that I've also experienced that same sort of mentality. And I do wonder, sometimes I blame myself because I think we as women are nurturers. And I just feel that it's always been kind of ingrained that you want to take care of others. You want to make sure that they're happy first. And sometimes we let that bleed over into some really important areas of our lives. So kudos to you both for kind of figuring some things out and thinking broadly and changing the next generation, which it sounds like to me, Brooke, you and your sisters and brothers have all done that. And I'm sure your parents, your mom must be very, very proud of you guys. But let me take this back now because I think what most of our listeners are going to be wondering, okay, so you go to these classes. What's next? Because the first time you have to write a check or you're investing in something that had to be pretty scary. So tell us about you learning the fundamentals and the importance, I would imagine, that it's not, you don't do this blindly. You really have to make educated, strategic choices.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, what I would say is changing the mindset because you have to have a resilient mindset and the mind to be open for you to start looking at alternative ways of investing. Not a lot of people think of this as a safe thing. People always are very skeptical, but the most important thing is getting into those circles of people that are either one or two steps ahead of you and start learning and listening because these are new terms that you're learning now, right? It's a whole nother universe. And you see a lot of people now when you're around people that are making money, that are making passive income for a long time, their mindset is totally different than the average Joe, right? They don't necessarily get scared when the markets are quote unquote in trouble.
Yes, right. That's a cycle. We've lived through the cycles. Yeah, it's a cycle, and that is true, right? Yeah, if you look at it from say wherever, I don't know, you had an investment 20 years ago. I mean, think about all the bad things we've gone through, right? The Great Recession, the pandemic. Still would probably have outperformed the S&P. I imagine, right? Most of the major
Yes.
index or somewhere along with those, that indices. So, no matter how you look at it, it's funny you say. I don't really feel like that it's that much of a risky investment. I think if you know what you're doing, to me, for the most part, I always felt like even with my own homes, always done very well. Like when you invest in that, right? And then you stop like, well, God, that did pretty well. So yeah, but I think you're spot on. You have to surround yourself with people that have done this before. You're learning from them, and you're kind of a sponge, kind of bringing that in. So Brooke, let me hear about your kind of mastermind classes you've went to, and then I want to hear about your first investments.
Yes, of course. So the how I started, because again, I was in sales and marketing and I was reading Grant Cardone's books. And during COVID, I was like, how the hell am I going to make these sales? I was literally putting fiber into office buildings where nobody was in. And so while I was reading his books, I was learning his style. So ladies, you need to find someone that lands with you, speaks with you, resonates with you. And I loved his no BS style delivery. And I was like, okay. So then he gave up. I started stalking him online. He had a sales and marketing. And I did. So I was social media stalking him. He had a sales and marketing mentorship for a year during COVID. So I signed up for that. And at the end of it, he said, hey, y'all, I know you guys know me as a sales and marketing guru, but I have most of my success in real estate. Here's a free VIP ticket for my first real estate summit. Just
Great
show up.
marketing, and you went.
Right. And so I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I remember I went by myself. I flew to Florida to Aventura.
Did you really? And that's a big step.
Well, see, I'm pretty independent. Like, and I'm the breadwinner in the family. Okay. My husband's a phenomenal supporter and he's in construction. I'm very grateful to have him. But coming from very, very humble beginnings and living off the government as a child and all the things, I vowed that I would never go back to anything like that, nor would my children have to
I get
experience.
it. I get it. Yeah, no, I think I get it.
Yeah. And so I got there, soaked it up, learned, and the mentorship was $25,000. So this is not chump change, you guys, but I felt like I knew him. And there was something in my gut that told me if you don't sign up for this, you will.
Yeah, you felt called to do it.
Right. And I had left another corporate job. So I was with AT&T for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I left and I had all my 401k money and savings. Bottom line, I took that money, never made it to the stock market. I used all my 401k money, all my savings, and paid for several mentorships over the course of like 5 years.
Wow. You have an entrepreneurial mind then, because
Yeah,
I struggle with that all the
I have
time.
faith in myself and I am a lifelong learner. And my husband calls me what the hell is it? The honey badger. When I really want something, I am a pit bull on the jugular and I soak up and I study like a maniac
Yeah.
and then I execute. And so that's what I suggest women do. Like, go find out know your goals first and foremost. If you don't even know what you want to do, then you're lost. So, do you want passive income? Or do you want do you need tax write-offs?
Or do you want to become like a multifamily owner and developer, and that's what you do as a business, right? You don't. I mean, you can look at it in different ways. So I think that's very important. So you both agree you need to know what your end goal is with this real estate.
Correct.
You don't want to
Absolutely.
go in there and say, I'm just going to be a landlord, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
girl, I'm just gonna invest with this and invest with this. And oh my God, it's so risky because women aren't educated. It was literally in the 70s that we could get a bank account or a home mortgage without a man. Like, he
well, you couldn't get your own credit card. And I think it was like
at
not
all.
78 or 80 until you could your own credit card. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I use that one in my speeches. And I'm like, I can't believe it. I think it was like 78. You can get your own mortgage, right? I mean, crazy. Don't even go. We won't go there. It's all good now, especially for your daughters. But that's very interesting. So you both thought, okay, this is kind of what my goal is going to be. And I'm sure Grant and these master classes kind of help you get that mission or that focus a little bit.
Yes.
So Grant, no. Grant is and I tell this to everybody. Grant is a phenomenal cheerleader, right? He's excellent at getting you excited. And we would pitch deals to him and he would rip them apart. And he is great at acquiring it and negotiating and things that I was
Okay.
already experienced with.
But he was like putting out a portfolio builder.
No, no, no. He was more of somebody that talked about how to acquire the deal, pitch your deal, grow investors, and be a syndicator, raise capital the way he does in social media. I don't know if Shirley had a different perspective on him.
Well, to me, it opened up my mind to think differently and learn a different language, which is the language of real estate and building wealth through it, making money, cash flow through it. But most definitely after him, I started going to other events. Of course, me and Brooke, it was a whole year of nothing but events for sure. And that's when we met other people that just spoke more towards our our ways of investing. Like for me, my mastermind was with Rod Cleave. And to me, I resonated with him more, not only because he has a big community of veterans in his mastermind who are also looking beyond the uniform to build wealth, but he really goes in depth with the mindset because you're not going to open that pocketbook. You're not going to be open to investing that amount of money if your mindset ain't prepared to understand the
Yes,
risk
I
and
think
reward.
that's really important, right? Because I mean, you're talking about, Brooke, how you took your 401k and went and invested it in
Yeah,
what you felt that you had to learn. Not many people can do that unless you are saying, okay, I'm changing my mindset, but I'm all in. But it's something it sounds like is what you have a little passion for. So I want to talk about that part. I mean, do you have to like it? I would think you have to kind of like it. Seriously, I mean, anything that you're going to be that diligent on, I would think you'd have to have a little like interest in the
absolutely.
underwriting side and in I don't know, rehabilitating a property or trying to understand how they're going to bring and add value to it.
There's so many different aspects to this, like you mentioned, capital raising, looking at the deals, the crunching numbers, but not
Right, right,
all of
right,
those areas we like. What
right.
we like and what we're passionate about is providing a good community and a good dwelling to people because that's an experience for their life.
Okay, so you're saying providing a nice multifamily home for someone to have a good quality of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I'm saying, I get it, I work for a real estate finance company, so I get it, and we're kind of impact focused, so, there may be, a shortage of workforce housing, and they are the backbone of our nation, right? So, to be able to provide families with good, solid, quality homes is something very, very fulfilling, so you're right, there are a lot of aspects to look at this, and not just as a way of driving revenue, but to drive wealth for yourself, for your families, for others, so I get it.
It's a win-win for sure.
It's for
You're
freedom
providing.
too.
Okay.
Yes. And on a selfish note, it's also for freedom because when you've been in corporate or depending on your background, I want to work with who I want to work with, when I want to work with, where I want to work at. And if I want to leave early to go watch my kids' game or me and my husband have a nice date night happening, I don't want to report to anybody. And I've always been reporting to somebody,
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm so and tired of it. And when I heard these people living the dream where, money is the tool to freedom. It's not that we want to be millionaires and billionaires. It's the
Oh,
lifestyle
I
that
I totally agree. So let's get down to some brass tacks though here, because this all sounds lovely, right? But I need you to explain a little bit about those couple of years when you were on your way up to get what you have now. What
Yeah.
did that require? And when did you make what was it like making your first investment? Tell me about something that went south. What do people need to know when you're taking this journey? It's not for the faint of heart.
no, absolutely not. So my first investment, I'll jump in real quick. My first investment was with Grant Cardone because I was nervous. I'd only done stock
Okay.
market
So you felt you're aligning with him, chances are.
because he puts himself out there. And
Right.
if you screw me over, I can tear something down. I can go tell people this guy did me dirty.
Right.
And
And a
so I
strong brand, very strong brand, right?
what happened?
He has a very strong brand.
It does.
Oh, exactly. And because he's putting himself out there, it helps him gain credibility. So I invested with him, saw what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I started just taking action, touring with people, et cetera, et cetera. However, one of the first mistakes that I did, and when you do choose to invest with people, with the operators, is at the same time, I'm trying to bring up other people while I was still learning on my journey. And then it was like the blind leading the blind, which cost me to lose a lot of money and a lot of time. And I'm flying from California. I live in North Dallas now. But at the time, I was nonstop flying to Florida and Texas and meeting with investors in New York and leaving my family. So it pissed me off when I thought people weren't aligned with me.
Yeah.
Um, right.
Yeah.
And so, in a bad investment, I would say that. So I'll share a story that's something that's happening right now is where people there's a lot happening in this political climate. We have tenants that are leaving, they're being deported, and it's not even that they're illegal. It might be mom and dad or auntie and uncle. But if you're going to send out mom and dad that are sick that came over to the States, well, the whole family's going to leave. And
Yeah.
so some of our assets are now down.
Sure. Sure, your occupancy's down, right? Your rents, yeah,
Oh,
I get it. I get it.
Dallas?
And that
Yeah.
was something you could never have really known was coming down the pipe.
Correct. But at the same time, the same asset, we got the property management team stole thousands of dollars from us. And the problem, where was the mistake? Where could that have been avoided? One of my partners who was responsible for property management, and it is what it is. He had a lot going on, and understandably so. This property manager was a referral.
Yeah.
They gave us a referral, and unfortunately, we trusted that person's judgment. And instead of validating an extra step and interviewing other operators, we didn't do that because we were in acquisition heavy, and they stole a lot of money from us. And now we have legal and had to report them. And that was a lot of money. We're dealing with this today,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to tread lightly.
And that's a lot of what it sounds like people have to be kind of aware of exposure, right? You're always looking at ways to protect your exposure in the areas where you could, look around corners. All right. So it sounds like you own and you manage properties or that's kind of the path you've gone on. There are other ways that you can also be more passive investor, but you did give us a good insight into what you deal with. So, it does come at an emotional cost or kind of a cost
Yes,
of,
it does.
but it also sounds you've become stronger and more educated,
Yes,
which
and
Oh, yeah.
you're
smarter.
learning, smarter.
I mean, it's all about trust. This game is
Really, it
all
is.
about trust. And so you have to do your due diligence and look people's background.
You have to really kind of know what you're investing in. You have to
Yeah.
underwrite the people just like you underwrite the property.
Absolutely. Thank you. I like that because we have a mentor that tells us, hey, ask them for their financials too. Because if
Yeah.
you're investing with them, you're entitled to look at their financials to
Yeah,
see
good point. Good
if they
point.
walk the talk and walk the walk. For me, the brass tacks, how I got into the game was I invested in my own property. I converted my first single home, my single family home.
Okay.
And I had it over 20 years. I knew that wasn't going to be my forever home. So I shifted my mindset and looked at it from an investment point of view. I knew that it had raised in value
Good
and
idea.
equity, and I was able to get the equity out and invest it in all these apartment buildings to include an apartment right in front of the beach in the Dominican Republic. And so you are able to learn so many ways that you can leverage money because a lot of us are sitting in a bed full of equity and we don't even know how to leverage it. And the way that the rich and wealthy acquire money is through lending,
Yeah.
really, and debt. And how to leverage that, but you have to understand the game. You just can't dive deep. Me being around Brooke, me being around Julie Roy, who's our mentor, and other women that are 2 to 3 steps ahead, self-made millionaires who are providing us with the information and us taking our due diligence and doing our homework and then feeling confident to take the plunge. And so once you do that, your mindset is a whole nother ball game, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm hearing a couple of things. So you do not have to be extremely wealthy to start.
Oh,
No.
absolutely not. You just have to learn how to leverage debt and how to leverage equity the right way.
But at some point when you are starting to invest and you're going up this, ladder a little bit, you have to have a certain amount of net worth. But and I guess if, they look at you, if it's recourse, non-recourse, but you have to have some sort of, look at you.
Well,
No,
I
maybe
mean,
you're saying you feel like you can start with not much.
they have like in commercial, because I know
Yeah.
you're into it sounds like you're in the lending space as well. So that was one of my problems when I first started. I was a high income earner, but I didn't have millions in the bank.
No.
We would tag team what we call a key partner, and they would get 10% of the profits, and they
Got
would
it.
that we would use their financials.
Right.
And the thing is going from this single, because right now when I moved to Dallas, I started flipping houses to fund my multifamily, and investors wanted their money faster within 6 to 9 months. And when I realized flippers are on their own and they have to leverage their credit, they have to leverage everything, they do everything on their own, and then they
Wow.
delegate. Multifamily, absolutely not. We don't care about your credit. I don't have to have a bunch of money in the bank. I tag team someone who has that liquidity and pay them 10% of profits. And then the rest of us bring in partners that have what we lack and we execute.
Commercial real estate, banks look at commercial real estate and multifamily as acquiring a business. That's why you don't have to send in your tax forms. It's just very different the lending and the process from the single family. Single family, you have to show your W-2 and your taxes and all of that. Banks look at multifamily as you acquiring a business. And that's exactly what it is, because you're pulling together this team of people that know how to do due diligence, know how to crunch the numbers, know how to walk a property, know how to conduct operations.
You're right. You want to see the operating history. It's of all those various things come into play. I get what you're saying. So I think what I'm trying to kind of share with everyone out there, if you don't have a ton of money, it's not that it's going to be an impossible barrier for you to overcome. You can educate yourself to a point where you're able to figure out one or two ways to, you know, get enough to start. And then it's like anything else. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, but you can really strategically approach this in a way that maybe you can end up, you know, building something that's, you know, a little bit different than just putting into a mutual fund, or a little bit different than putting it into the stock market, right? I mean, it's kind of like spreading your wealth. What percentage would you say, from a woman's perspective, if you've got a financial kind of pie, what percentage would you say you should be starting to think about real estate? And I don't mean like you could be in alternative investments or a REIT or something that does have real estate components to it. But what do you think?
So I put about 20 to 30% of my income goes into real estate. And the reason for that is because over 75 years on average, the stock provides you 8 to 10% as a return, where multifamily over that same period is on average of 20%. And I'm getting tax write-offs as a K1 based off what I invest. And this is, and it, keep it one, I want to put this out there because a lot of wealthy people don't pay taxes and people get angry. Well, listen for a second. The tax code literally tells you what to do, about what the government can do to waive out these taxes. It is an incentive program. And so when you are investing in multifamily and you're in certain parts of real estate, commercial storage, whatever it might be, they're giving you money back because you are executing something that they cannot do, right?
Correct.
And so I say this to, one, know what your goal is, ladies. Know what you want out of life. Then sign up for a mentorship. You can go to meetup.com or kind of all over the place and not that serious. When you go to a paid mentorship, people are about their business and they're serious, and it's a pay to play game. It really is.
Okay,
So,
let's give them 5 steps. How do you start? You start with kind of knowing what your goal is.
know what you want, write your goals down. Is it freedom? Are you in a tax situation? Are you fed up with that W-2 that makes you want to hang yourself at the end of the day?
You're really angry. I'm sorry.
Now, so for me, I wanted freedom to be with my family. So that I wrote everything down and I decided, what are bills I'm paying that are fluff that I don't need this BS? What is the minimum that I can make passively to leave my W-2 job and do this full time? So I did a financial audit after I realized I wanted freedom to be with my family and run my own day. So I did a financial audit, paid off anything, found out my Apple Card had almost $800 of insignificant subscriptions, canceled them all, took that money and put it in my high yield savings account. Ladies, if you have an iPhone and say you have an Apple Card, you can automatically, right from the phone, the Apple Wallet, get a Goldman Sachs high yield savings account. I think right now it's like 4.25% on your return right now. Do it and start doing that. And then the next thing you want to do is, if it's a tax situation, multifamily usually gives you the biggest tax write-offs. Triple net's not that far behind, okay? But if you're somebody who's willing to take larger risks, I would still say multifamily. Lower risk, triple net, because triple net, you own land and buildings. There's no operational overhead. You're just collecting rents from people like Starbucks, AutoZone, etc. So you need to know your risk goals.
Your risk tolerance, what your goals are, and it's like a business plan for your life almost.
Right. So once you have your goals down, you know what you want, start researching people that are in this space and start seeing style.
Where did you research?
Well, I was looking at Grant Cardone and I was on sales and marketing. I had no intention of being in real estate until Grant told us at the end of our sales and marketing internship. I have a free VIP ticket, and I told myself I'm going to meet this guy because I thought he was badass. Love him or hate him. My feelings change now, but but at the time I thought he was a really.
I was going to say I thought he was at your house all the time. Now that you're friends, but we won't go there.
Oh no, him and I have a track record. Him and I went toe to toe for a bunch of deals. People who were in that community saw me and him bump heads, and I popped off a lot at him because, again, I'm a little more aggressive than most of them.
Yeah,
but. And after you find that person, start social media stalking them. Are they going to events? Are they going to be speaking? Have they written a book? Are they podcast? Google their name.
Yeah.
Oh my God, do they have a mentorship? Educate yourself, soak it up. And then I do suggest going to a paid type of mentorship with somebody that does land with you, because these people are
We're
serious,
serious. Yeah.
I put money, the skin in the game,
Yeah.
and then start partnering with people that have what you lack. Every female, every job you've had, your history brings something to the table, whether it's an underwriter, right? Let's due diligence, property management, asset management, investor relations, pick your poison. Everybody brings something to the table. And then you need to be able to manage it. Most people, if you have a W 2, I would dedicate a minimum of a couple hours a day of just underwriting or touring properties and putting yourself out. Do you want to raise capital? Or if so, you better start putting content out and be a name in the space that people trust.
Yeah.
Or are you a high income earner and I don't want to leave my job? I just want my money to work faster for me so Uncle Sam isn't taking over half
Yeah,
of
so
it.
you just right there put 3 different ways that you could get involved in
Right.
real estate. So you're right.
And
I mean,
Yes.
I'm listening to that, and I think one of the best things I've come from walked away from this is that you can look at it 5 or 6 different ways, and you don't have
Correct.
to love all
so
aspects of
many.
it, right? But
And
if this
Shirley
is
has the
gonna
hotel,
yeah.
and I haven't done that yet. She's the guru on that.
Well, I mean, it's just like, piggybacking off of Brooke, educate yourself, know what you want. Like, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? I mean, I did this with my soldiers too in their career. We would sit down and we would map out where do they see themselves in 3 to 5 years. If you don't want to work or keep working, you know that you have to implement certain actions there, right? That you need to enact in order to get to that. And so for me, I started writing, I visualized, okay, by the time I'm 50, I want to own X amount of properties and I want them to cash flow so it'll replace my check, my paycheck, really. I started reading books by Tom Wheelwright, Tax-Free Wealth. That is so great because the government incentivizes you to provide homes for people here. That's why you get the biggest tax write-off. Read books from Rod Cleve, Lifetime Cash Flow. He goes into the bare basics of what people can understand with regards to real estate and cash flow. And then go to meetups, go to Eventbrite,
Yeah.
real estate meetups, and a whole bunch of, meetups around your area will pop up because it's all about network too. And when you start formulating that, you're going to start learning these terms and learning people and learning their weaknesses and strengths. And you are going to gravitate to that for sure.
You know, I always love to leave my guests with a couple of takeaways that they can put into action. I feel like you guys have laid out a pretty good plan for them, like you really have. And of course, we're going to leave all of your information within the show so they can actually reach out because I know you also counsel and help advise and teach others. But if there were 3 kind of things that you feel were most critical to you that impacted your path along this way to bring you that success. Can you give us maybe just three things that were like, man, you have to do this. This was a game changer, and XYZ, this is when I knew I made it.
Invest in yourself first. Invest in your mind because that is the biggest treasure you have. What's right in between your eyes. And for me, when I started investing in myself, that also then led me to meeting people like Brooke and meeting key people. And so that it just snowballs. You just have to put yourself out there, but educate yourself with the bare basics and then put yourself out there.
Okay, so that's really important. And I've heard this from both of you. You really need to become knowledgeable, passionate, be an avid learner, curiosity, just get out there, learn as much as you can, because that's going to be the number one thing that protects you, right? And the number one thing that guides you and is like your North Star to get where you need to be.
Basic financial literacy. Not a lot of people know, but you'll be
And
surprised.
don't be afraid of it, right?
Correct.
Okay, what
Absolutely.
else do you have to add, Brooke? Because I know in there you as well had some really good nuggets of things that you must kind of really have that plan. So I think those 2 are 2 great things.
Yes. So, one, know enough to be dangerous. You don't need to know everything. Just surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. I
Yep.
promise.
Yeah.
2, just make sure that you take action. Done is better than perfect. Okay. And in the beginning, it was very difficult for me to really put myself out there, but having a vision board and writing down my goals every day, and it would remind me why I'm in this and that it's not about me, it's about our 4 daughters. And 3, surrounding myself with people that when times get hard, that I can make a phone call and say, Shirley, man, do you have a minute? I'm going through some stuff and I just
And that
got
hasn't
slammed.
happened.
I just lost. And her and I have phone calls for 2-3 hours where we're just kind of like, man, what do I do? I feel so lost. So, one, know enough to be dangerous and take action. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Don't spend your whole life preparing. Oh my God, women tend to overanalyze and then they code it on.
Imagine that.
Know enough to be dangerous, execute, surround yourself with phenomenal people, and know that done is better than perfect. Okay.
Well, yeah, you know what, ladies, you have just been really so full of energy and so inspiring. And this makes me so happy because, as I had my daughter, my mother only went to the ninth grade, and she always drilled in my head, never depend on anyone financially, earn your own money. And she
Yes.
didn't know, she wasn't able to do that. And then I would sing to my daughter when she was little, someday my prince will come. Someday my prince will come. After I go to college and get a good job, I promise I won't marry a slob. And she was like, until she was 16, she thought that was the verse to, I think it was the Snow White show. But anyhow, it just, it makes me happy because I see so much more going in the future. And I think a lot of it has been fear for women. And you have taken some of that fear out, and you are living, breathing proof of what you can do if you just
Man's
follow
not a
some of these
plan.
steps. What's that?
I
No.
said, a man is not a plan,
Oh
y'all.
my gosh, you were too funny. But
And
anyhow, Shirley and Brooke, a complete delight. And for my guests out there, if you can learn so much more about them in the show notes, we'll have all of their information there. If you like this show, please like it, comment it on it, and in addition, just share it with everyone because I think this is such an important episode for people to learn, especially women. To have some confidence in their future, to empower themselves from a financial perspective, and they have just given you some secret sauce.
Absolutely.
thanks, Bonnie. We had such a great time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Worth Knowing. If you'd like to learn more about our guest story or connect with them, you'll find their details in the show notes. Remember, the path to worth knowing is paved with courage and insight. Stay inspired, keep striving, and continue to make a difference. Then, you must make sure to share it with others. Until next time, keep chasing those aha moments, my friends. You know, the ones that deliver results and motivate and teach the world. Worth Knowing is produced by Missing Link, a Latina-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, they craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. The Agile Brand.